Easier way, you sit down on the floor, legs out in front of you, but get your bum a bit closer to your heel. Of course, we'll have, you know, it's important to have the right attire on, like trainers, and
should be wearing trainers,
tracksuit bottoms, but still. And then slowly, just lower, drop your elbow. Don't push your body back there. Just drop your elbow.
Okay.
So you can push up.
I can feel that
on it.
in the upper arm.
Yes, you can. Good. It's good. Feel it right up in the back. If I turn this way, maybe you can see it a little bit more.
You've got such well-defined arms, all that javelin throwing.
Well, it's not just that. I do go weight training quite a lot.
Do you?
But of course, if you're sort of in the home quite a lot, you don't really need to go to the gym every day.
Yeah.
There's other exercises that you can do for your arm. You can have a little bit of resistance, such as we've got some tins of rice here.
Yes.
That you can sit up.
Okay.
You sit up for a little bit. Turn round, and which will work in the biceps there, because that tends to get a bit flabby as well down here.
Yes.
Just slowly squeeze in.
I can really feel that. Oh, I
Get
should be trying those, thank you.
And if need be, use it with both arms.
Okay.
And there, you have this one as well.
Now,
and just slowly squeeze in.
Okay. Now, while I'm doing this, tell me about your comeback, because you've come out of retirement, haven't you?
I have. A challenge was thrown down to me by children in hospital, sick children in hospital, to come out of retirement and try and raise £1 million, which was spread across 19 children's hospitals across the UK. Now, that challenge is that I'll come back and make the British team, make the Olympic team, and hopefully get a medal. Any medal would be great, as far as I'm concerned. And while I'm doing that, their challenge is to go out. They'll do a number of sponsored events, and it doesn't have to be sporting things. Just sitting at homes. There's great zip and zap T-shirts that they can buy.
So it's getting
do
the
the
kids
homework,
fit.
getting the kids fit, and also getting the kids very active during the summer period. So they're helping sick children themselves. So I thought, after a long debate and talking to my mum and dad, sending them letters backwards and forwards, I thought, okay, let's have a go. Gosh. So here I am.
So Atlanta in July, that'll be your 6th Olympic Games.
My 6th
That's
games.
a record, isn't it?
I'm told it's a record, yes, and it's a nice feeling. It's a very, very nice feeling. A lot of hard work, and I ache in a lot more places than I ever thought that I would ache. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm really, really enjoying it. But, you know, the girls are throwing well, and it's going to be very tough.
Because you're now 40. You don't mind me saying.
Thank you.
You don't look it. Is it much
hard?
harder for you now, getting back into shape?
Very much so. Mentally as well. Getting up in the morning and saying, oh gosh, you know, I've got to go training. What am I doing? Instead of planning what I'm going to do the night, go out with the girls, have a giggle. But you're as old as you feel. I feel great, and as long as I can do the training that's necessary, then I don't really see that there should be any problem. I think it's a myth when people say, oh, you're 35 and everything's gone. No, it's nonsense. No, believe me, it's nonsense. It's great to be 40.
So how many hours a day do you train?
I'm training some days about an hour and a half, and other days about 3 hours, split up into an hour and a half sessions. I javelin throw twice a week, weight train about twice, 3 times a week, do little bits of running. And what I've done for another form of conditioning, I've mapped out a mile from my home to my home, and that's all I run every other day. So it's helping the conditioning.
And I could use things just like tins here to improve my own arms.
That will improve your arm enormously. If you can take a little bit more resistance, then do that. So
well, I'll do this while I'm watching you in July at the Olympics. Very best of luck. While we're out here doing our weight training, Ross Burden is cooking up something delicious in the kitchen.
That's right, Liz. And what we're cooking up today is orange and almond cake. I've got 6, actually 7 free-range eggs in a bowl here. I'm going to add some caster sugar, whisking quite strongly here. Oops, all over the show. Right, there we go. Combine well. What I've got here is some orange paste, which we're going to come to later when Liz comes back. All this paste goes in, and then, once that's combined, the secret ingredient are the ground almonds. Now, these are whole almonds I ground this morning.
Whew, hi.
You feeling okay after that?
Feeling like eating a bit of orange and almond cake, I tell you.
Jolly good. Okay.
This is good. You're making a mess in my kitchen.
I'm making a mess in your kitchen, but I'm sure we'll get around that. Okay, I was just saying that the orange flavourings in this cake come from whole boiled oranges. If you notice anything slightly odd about that orange.
I thought it was an old orange.
Well, no, it's a fresh orange that I boiled this morning for an hour, and that takes all the bitterness out of the orange.
Really?
But it leaves all the flavour in. And then if you blend the oranges whole, pips, pith, and all together, you get all the goodness with none of the bitterness, and you get these fantastic...
And that makes the orange paste.
Orange paste.
I should say, actually, don't worry about jotting all this down at the moment, because I will give you details of how to get our fantastic fact sheet at the end of the programme with this brilliant recipe.
Okay, so what we need to do, in fact, is add a little bit of baking powder, because I forgot that, but we'll come to that later. We'll stir that one in. Okay, that goes into a hot oven.
Excellent.
Okay, now, to decorate it, what we're going to do is take some fresh oranges like this and zest them with a zester knife. Now, you might be able to see, if I do it quickly, that the orange oil sprays out of the orange.
It smells fantastic,
doesn't it smell fantastic
in here. It really does.
Okay, so that goes into some orange juice and a little sugar and is boiled to a syrup that we're going to serve with a cake.
It's almost like marmalade, isn't it?
Well, you could probably boil down marmalade.
Yes, we didn't want to do that.
Now, the next tip is to take an orange, take the top off, take the bottom off, and then in a round sort of fashion, take the sides off like this. I've got a serrated knife to make it a little bit easier. Right. Okay, take these off. This gets rid of all the pith. Now,
it does smell good. It's so juicy.
It's
oranges.
wonderful,
I love them.
aren't they wonderful? Drip, drip. Okay, now what you can either do is you can slice that now that the pith's gone, or we can be slightly cleverer and take little slices down past little white segments. Look at that.
Now, you cook for just about every celebrity and members of the royal family, so you know all about presentation.
Oh, presentation's very important. The eye remembers more than the stomach.
That's a good line.
That's true.
And Joan Collins has called you her favourite chef.
Well, that's very kind of her, but yes, I've done quite a lot of work with Joan.
Are they quite demanding celebrities, though? Does everything have to look good?
Well, I think everybody's demanding these days. You know, food has become so much more important and part of life that everybody now has ideas about the way things should be and shouldn't be.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we've got those done, we've got our cake here, which needs to be cut into wonderful pieces.
So this is baked?
This is baked in a hot oven.
Quite
and
hot.
It's still very moist, though, because, you know, we've got the oranges, the eggs, the sugar, the baking powder and the almonds, and that's it.
I mean, I know a lot of people on a wheat-free or a dairy-free diet, so this would be a good option, wouldn't it?
Very good.
Okay,
so if I just take this, whoops, a little bit awkward here, okay. And there you can see it's still very moist.
Delicious, thank you. You put that on a
and very
plate.
wholemeal with all the whole almonds on it.
And how do you serve it?
With some creme fraiche here.
Yes.
Some orange segments, and that's delicious zest syrup.
Great, well thank you very much. I'll leave you to do that. I'm going to find Paula now. Will you bring it to us?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
You found me.
Chilling out in my garden.
Chilling out in your garden. It's very beautiful.
Thank you. You're chilling out with your life, aren't you?
Very much so.
After an extraordinary start.
Very much so.
Going from supermodeldom, acting, and now, of course, writing a very frank and honest book, talking a lot about addictions.
Addictions, women's issues, and awareness of alcoholism. It's it is the biggest killer this country knows. It's claimed 3 million lives in the last decade.
Yes.
It's the least money is spent on research on it. About 100 people die a day of alcohol-related accidents.
Yes.
About 5 people die a day of drug-related accidents. Now, if you have cancer or leukemia, you get a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy and a lot of support. But alcoholism, people don't know, and why should they? There isn't any awareness or education on what actually an alcoholic is. I mean, you know, people look at me and say, but you can't be alcoholic, you don't have a dirty raincoat, your nose isn't purple, and you aren't lying in a gutter. And did you drink, you know, brandy from a shaving mug in the mornings? And no, I didn't do any of those things.
Yes.
But I'm still an alcoholic. And so, you know, why is it that we're so terrified of this thing? This sort of legalised drug, because it is a drug, it comes under drugs as it's being described. You put Valium above your head in a cabinet to keep it away from children, but you put your martini at this level where a 3-year-old, 5-year-old can drink it and die. Yeah. Why do we have on the side of cigarettes packets, cancer can kill, cigarettes cause cancer? Why don't we have on the side of a bottle of booze, you know, is addictive, can cause kidney failure? You know, what is going on? It fascinates me. And
I have to say, I learned a lot reading your book, which is called Instructions Not Included, a great title for life. I didn't realise that if you were an alcoholic, you weren't necessarily drinking every day.
No.
Because that wasn't your story, was it?
No.
What happened with you?
I would go through periods of drinking like everybody else, you know, and going down to the pub and things, and something would happen, I think, oh my God, that was embarrassing, I won't do that again, and found that I couldn't not do that again because I would drink again. And I would stay away from it for 3 or 4 months at a time, using other addictions like shopping or zooming in on my partner and focusing in on his work and going, you should do it like this or do it like that. As long as I wasn't left with myself. And if I was left with myself, those feelings came back up again. And what I was taught at a very young age was to fix your own feelings. So I did, with fantasy, with alcohol, with drugs. You know, I went into a wonderful career that's full of fantasies, you know.
The modelling world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. You've talked very frankly about drugs. Why is it, do you think, that the drug world is so attractive to models?
Well, it's because we're told from the start that we're special and we're different, and we are this sort of elitist little group, you know, of people, and it's perfectly all right for us to be different. And you know, the lawyers I was attached to with my modelling, and my doctors would say to me, you know, want to snort? You know, or I went to the dentist, you know, Novocaine, or have you bought your own stuff? You know, it was really that normal. You know, I'd hang out with stewardesses who were snorting in the back in the cabins. You know, in the 80s it was phenomenally normal. And for me, who had little or no regard for myself, thought, you know, hey, great, another thing to take me away from being who I am, or feeling me.
Why did you go off the rails, do you think, with drink and drugs?
I was destined to.
Really?
I was destined to.
How come?
From a very loving, as they could be, dysfunctional family. I mean, my mother didn't sit on the edge of her bed every morning thinking, how can I really destroy my 2-year-old's life? You know, she had the tools and she dealt with life the best way she could, and you know, and I was a result of them, and she was a result of her mother's, and you know, it's a legacy that's passed on, and it's a legacy I'm breaking.
Yes.
And I think I was very traumatized as a child.
Yes.
I was told that I wasn't valued. I interpreted, I made up in my head I wasn't valuable. I made up in my head my feelings weren't validated. What I had to say was stupid. I was dyslexic. I was difficult at school. You know, I found school innately very shaming. You know, and I felt stupid, and I knew I wasn't stupid.
Yes.
So I was, you know, destined to be a mess by the time I was 3 or 4. The whole thing about this book is that, you know, you're actually being a fly on the wall of somebody's life, which happens to be me, and you're seeing a very honest opinion, it's only my opinion, and when I speak of AA or NA or recovery, it's only my opinion and my experiences. I can't say what you should do or what anyone else can do. The only recipe I have is the one that I've walked.
Yes.
So, you know, if I was a cook, you know, I can't sell you Anton's Mosiman's recipes, but I can say I know how to make this recipe. And talking about chefs,
of recipes.
Here I am.
now, what a shame, he only seems to have bought one portion.
Oh, no, Ross.
But 3 forks.
Thank you very much indeed. This looks absolutely
I have
delicious.
been waiting for this.
Before I tuck into this, it just remains for me to thank my very special guest today. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up next week, we have the top comedian Kate Robbins, voice behind virtually every spitting image puppet. Also, top hatter Stephen Jones here with hats for the summer season. Lots more lifestyle tips, yoghurt and yoga of all things. Don't go away, because right at the end of the show, I'll give you details of how to get our special fact sheet. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Yum.
Thank you. My turn
There
now.
might be a bit left for you, actually. This is amazing, based on almonds. Yum.
If you'd like a copy of our fact sheet,